is who's really running the service department. Now, if I ask a group of 25 contractors in the room, most will raise their hand and they'll say, well, the service manager's running it, or the owner's running it, or something like that. Well, the reality is they're not the ones that are actually functionally running the service department. It's usually your most seasoned tech, usually the one who's being paid the most, who's been there the longest. We'll call him Joe. What happens when Joe comes in 10 minutes late? Maybe 2 or 3 days a week. Nobody says anything. What do the other techs do? Well, they look at Joe and said, well, gee, if Joe can come in 10 minutes late and nobody says anything, I guess I can. And Joe, well, he's kind of sloppy with his paperwork, too. He doesn't always turn it in properly, and it's not always really filled out well, but nobody really says anything, so what do the other techs think? Well, gee, I guess it's okay if I do that, too. And many mornings when Joe leaves the office, where's his first stop? At McDonald's. Well, it doesn't take long before, guess what? All the other techs are meeting at McDonald's as well, because if Joe can get away with it, so can I. And sometimes Joe wears his uniform, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes it's dirty. But again, informally at least, who's setting the standards for the service department? Well, it's Joe. It's the guy who's been there the longest, being paid the most. He's the one that's really setting the standards, at least before we get into what we're getting into today. He's really the one who's setting the standards within our department. So if we don't set up some specific goals and measure against those goals, Joe becomes the standard. Well, that's not going to work if you're going to make money in your service department. Now, let's look at slide number 7. These are some of the reasons for poor performance in your service department. Hourly rates being set improperly or too low. That's a problem. Fear of charging what you need to be making to make a profit in the service department. That can cause poor performance. What about the fear that somebody might be out there who's going to undercharge you? Well, relax. Guess what? There's dozens of guys out there that are underperforming, charging less than you are. Technician underbilling causes poor performance. Inefficiencies caused by 2 or more service techs, too many service techs in the service department. Okay. How about how many trips we make back to the distributor, pick up parts, or back to the office? That causes poor performance. Poor first-time completion percentages. Unclear performance expectations, too much applied or non-billable time. And the old tradition, hey, we've always had 6 techs, so of course we got to have 6 techs next year too. We only may need 4. Okay.